Hello and welcome. My name's Carter. I'm here to do a little live stream today for you guys and just hang out in general. I figured I would do some quick kind of walkthrough of, my process and as far as illustration, digital painting goes, and how you can organize your files and create with animation in mind. So bringing this kind of digital painting over into After Effects, which is what I'm going to be using, and making it move, give it a little something more dynamic. So that's going to be the focus today. As you can see, I'm already pretty well into this illustration, and so I'm going to do a little bit of painting and showing kind of the tools I use in Photoshop, and then I'm going to do some little file organization. I know, super exciting, and bring that over into After Effects, and we shall see. I figured I'd do something kind of video game-esque since we're on the platform for gamers, Twitch, of course. And so I'm doing this kind of like fantasy RPG inspired scene. I'm kind of imagining it ending up as like a mock side scroller, or like turn-based kind of Final Fantasy-esque battle that's about to ensue. We'll see how far we get, but a lot of my work is pretty directly inspired from video games and fantasy and sci-fi, so I figured I'd tie that in and just go full nerd. So let's see here. I got a lot of files, or a lot of layers here. One of the things that's kind of tedious about bringing an illustration like this over into After Effects is you kind of have to think about it as like a paper animation, or like a cut paper animation. So anything that you want to be moving around, it needs to be on its own layer. So like on its own, its own piece of paper. So like each of these two characters would have to be on their own layer, but not only that, if you want their arms and legs to move around, it's like each kind of like joint needs to be its own layer. So, there's a lot of like groundwork you have to sort of lay for yourself at the beginning, but this is kind of like the tedious part for me. Obviously, I love painting and drawing, but once you are sort of like cutting out all these pieces and organizing and naming files, that's kind of the tedious part. So I'm going to show you like sort of midway into that process, and then bring it over into After Effects, and that's kind of the fun part, at least for me, or a more rewarding part, is just watching these things move around. So let's see here. I was about partway into slicing up this little gargoyle dude. I'll have to do a little more of that, but for right now, I have literally like a layer named gargoyle back foot. So, and then there's front foot. So it's like, probably it's going to be about 12 layers for this one dude. And I don't necessarily like draw each layer at a time and like create a new layer and then like draw a hand, make a new layer. Like I sort of draw the whole figure itself, because that's a little more naturalistic, and like I don't have to interrupt my creative flow as I'm drawing the character, but then I kind of go back in and start dissecting it for the purposes of animation. So Yeah. What else do I got here? There's a bunch of clouds. Those are going to be floating around in the background. There's like, these structures are on their own layer. Something I want to do with this scene in particular is create kind of a like parallax effect is what I guess you'd call it. So the background, there's going to be like a clearly defined background, midground, and foreground. And what that's going to allow is, in the foreground is going to be these sort of like close-up, almost blades of grass or plants. And with that, we're going to be able to create some depth in the illustration, even though we're not really working at all in 3D, but with those kind of clearly defined background, middle ground, foreground, you can sort of create this like fake depth. I call it 2.5 dimensions instead of 2D or 3D. So knowing a little bit about After Effects, obviously, like it's going to help you plan a scene like this. So yeah, just going to kind of finish this gargoyle, and then I think these two are going to square off, and I don't know if I'm going to get to like animating them fighting each other necessarily, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Everything takes 3 times longer than you think it does, so I'll probably just like finish the gargoyle, and that will be like 3 hours later. So thanks, Techman Joe. Thanks for joining. Cool. So yeah, let me finish this gargoyle guy real quick. Like I said, I sort of each point of articulation I've brought onto its own layer. So for now, I think right now I just need to go in and cut this piece, make his head his own layer. I'm using the polygonal lasso tool. That's how you spell head. Head. That's gonna function, I think, just fine. We could trim it if we wanted to. I guess, speaking on the more drawing aspect, I do sort of get a lot of mileage out of like just sort of cutting back into shapes to get sort of a better silhouette. So like he had a little sort of roughness around the edges, and so just kind of like going back in and sort of like shaving parts just kind of creates a more, I guess, interesting shape, or more clear at least. All right. I'll try my best to pay attention to the chat. Got my monitor over here, and then my Cintiq 16, which is what I'm working on. Cintiq 16 connected to a MacBook Pro, and yeah, that setup you can pretty much do anything on. So Chris Diego Art asks, do you ever just draw layers separately instead of cutting them out later? Yes. Yeah, so I'll do that with things like the clouds, for instance. So, I knew it was easy enough to make a new layer and draw a singular cloud. With the characters, I feel like it was going to create a less dynamic figure if I was like stopping every minute to like create a new layer for like forearm and like draw the forearm and then stop and draw the hand. Like I guess you could, there's probably a world where you like make like a sketch, and then you're working on top of that and like making those layers individually. But yeah, I just sort of wanted to like, I didn't even actually know that this gargoyle guy was gonna like be any good. And then as it was coming together, I was like, this is kind of cool. And so now I'm just sort of parsing it apart. It's also something that if you're a motion designer, you probably have to do for people. If they, sometimes you'll just get handed like a JPEG and they'll be like, hey, can you animate this? And it's like, sure. So you have to like go back in and like cut everything out and like clone stamp where all those holes are. And it's kind of a nightmare, but that's the nature of the beast. So, all right. So let's see. Gargoyle head. Make a new layer. I'll talk about my brushes here. I use, let me see here, turn that off. So I name my brushes most of the time, just stuff that only makes sense to me. So, but essentially what I use is some kind of brush, namely Kyle Webster brushes. Shout out to Kyle Webster. And those are free with Adobe Cloud. Let me take a look here. So I'll show you what I do to the brushes. I go into color dynamics. It's a really small window. I don't know if you can see this. Can I expand this? No. So I usually go into, there's a little column, or row rather, color dynamics. And if you're working with a Wacom pen, this is, pretty sweet. So you can turn pen pressure on for the foreground background jitter. And so what that means is, and once you check that off, it's going to just turn on for any brush. So these two little color swatches over on the far left side of the screen are your foreground background. And so like you essentially select two different hues. I usually do one like really light tint of a color and then like a really kind of dark like shade of that color. And so now what's going to happen is I'm controlling sort of what color is, I guess, coming out of my brush based on pressure. So like if I press down really hard, I get a really dark, that closer to that dark value that I selected. And then if I ease off pressure, I get closer to the lighter sort of tint that I selected. So this is like one of the huge advantages of pen pressure for me. And it's like essential to my sort of digital painting workflow. Just because you don't have to go change your color every 2 seconds to get like a wide variety. If you set these colors as like black and white, you can essentially do like an entire value study without ever changing your color. So yeah, that's been a big discovery for me as far as digital painting goes. Yeah, it's I tend to show that to people that come into the experience center. It's like, most people think of the kind of like thick to thin as being like the only function of pressure, but yeah, controlling your hue via pressure is kind of next level. So all right, I'm gonna focus for a second. This is gargoyle back upper arm. Just gonna try to match the colors of the rest of his arm, so it's like you can't really, you kind of want to obscure these seams that you're creating. All right. Go ahead and cut out this sort of forearm. Another thing to think about when you're sort of cutting these pieces out is on a lot of these joints, like let me go back, like I had it before, you have kind of like these sharp edges. If you think about it, when you're going to be like rotating those sort of joints, like any sort of sharp edge is going to become really apparent. So I tend to like round where I'm thinking, you know, the joint is. So yeah, that'll make more sense later, but oops. Okay. Gargoyle back forearm. Oof, okay. Yeah, this illustration was probably also inspired by the fact I've been playing this game called Divinity 2 Original Sin, and it's for a lot of different systems, but I've been playing it on PlayStation 4 and actually been playing it with my partner and a couple of our friends, and so it's like you can play 4-player co-op essentially, and it is, I would say, one of the most like true to D&D as far as like an RPG goes. I know pretty much any video game RPG is inspired by D&D, but like I guess like down to the mechanics of it, and like how you build your character and sort of all the there's a ton of freedom as far as like if you want to be good or evil, if you want to like pickpocket everyone you see, or if you want to like try to persuade people to join your cause or not. Yeah, it's been pretty rad, and it's, yeah, again, obviously very set in fantasy setting. So been playing that. That's been keeping me sane. But yeah, what has everyone else been playing? I know Animal Crossing is pretty ubiquitous right now. I don't have a Nintendo Switch. It was also too late for me to ever have the hopes of acquiring one since they all sold out like immediately. But Chris Diego got Final Fantasy VII today. Ooh, that's fresh off the press. A new video game. Forgot what I was doing. Ooh, Horizon Zero Dawn. It's a great. Love that game. It's like, yeah. The world building in Horizon Zero Dawn is pretty crazy. For anyone who doesn't know, it's like essentially set so far in the future that there's these like, it's kind of like Terminator-esque where these like nano machines and technology has like evolved into its own sort of like, it's like, yeah, I guess it's evolved into like a species, and there's like dinosaurs that are all like mech-esque, and there's like a whole like tribal kind of society that's like, since the technology crashed, they're sort of reduced to this like tribal system, but they're also still like very tech oriented. I don't know, it's wild. Okay. Yeah, see, this is like already taking me way longer than I was anticipating. I was like, yeah, I'll just bust out the gargoyle real quick. That'll take 5 minutes. Then I'll show these guys how to animate. That'll be easy. I'm just gonna keep this guy fairly loose. If I wanted to, I do like his hand. I feel like I could get in there if I really wanted to, but just add some highlights. I had this like pencil sketch of it first, and then I kind of just like, I liked sort of the energy of the pencil sketch, so I just merged that into the painting. I don't know. Just, let me see here. Gargoyle. Concept art for Horizon Zero Dawn is next level. I don't know if I can remember it. I mean, that game itself is very beautiful. Yeah, that was my dream job. I mean, I guess it still would be, is being a concept artist, just because you get to paint. Cool stuff all day, but I'm sure it's pretty rigorous. I'm sure they expect high turnaround. Okay. Am I done yet? Everything. Okay, the wings. And his halberd. that out. Excuse me. You finish this. Since I can't draw a straight line, I also use the polygonal lasso tool to just make shapes. And yeah, I'm just trying to sample colors that already exist in the weapon. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for joining. Cool. Oh yeah, the wings. These aren't the most functional wings that I've ever drawn. They're kind of wild, but I don't know. It's just figure just make things hard for myself and try to animate them. But I am gonna cut each one out so they can animate independently. Oops. So I'll just grab things and move them around and make sure there's not like little other pieces that I missed. Like it's hard to see, but there's like this little fleck that is on this layer. So it's not like the end of the world since you could come back and edit it, but cool. Now I'll just piece this guy back together. Definitely like layer order matters quite a bit here. Yeah, That's it. How many layers is this guy? $15. Good. I love making things just difficult. I wonder where are we at? 30 minutes. I'm trying to think if I want to do this same treatment to our little snake lizard warrior guy, or if we just leave him static. Maybe I'll go less intense with him. I'll just like slice off his arms or something. Yeah. Also, lizard guy needs a weapon, so I'm taking requests for what this lizard warrior is wielding. Make his tail wiggle. Okay, do that. All right, yeah. Let me just get into it. There have been times where I have drawn a whole character, like, just sort of diligently with all the pieces on different layers just in one go. And I usually do that in Adobe Illustrator. I don't know why. I feel like when I'm in Illustrator, I'm in more of a design headspace. And so I'm just sort of like thinking, I don't know, all those pieces are like very clearly distinct from each other. Whereas in this program, Photoshop, I'm just sort of like painting and like drawing. And then I like do it as an afterthought. I don't know. Lizard tail. Laser gun. He's from the future. I mean, I do like that sort of like, I guess like Star Trek sort of sci-fi where they like envision other planets like that are still kind of like medieval-esque. Okay, maybe I'll do a laser gun. I like it. Okay, tail. Get his arm. So once again, just kind of rounding out these joints, giving you, yeah, just like some room to work with. Because let me just demonstrate, I suppose. Because he's going to be like rotating this shield. Obviously, that's not where it's going to be pivoting from, but yeah, you just, by having it rounded, you're not going to have these weird edges that pop up and sort of break the illusion. This masterful illusion that I've made. No one can disbelieve this. This is fact. Lizard shield. And this one is going to be a little more rough. Let's see here. Oops. Destroyed my drawing. There's his arm. I have to go back in and do some damage control. We're probably not going to be seeing like a lot of what's under the arm, so it doesn't have to be immaculate, but just use these like shadows. I kept like making my canvas larger and larger just because the scale of the drawing kept growing, but I didn't want to like shrink things and lose resolution. So I'm working on like a 18 inches by 24 inches. I think it's at like 100 DPI, but my computer is working right now. It's like the fan is audible. I'm sure After Effects is going to love this file. Okay, that's enough. Okay, I'm drawing a laser gun. That's the request. I don't even know who this Chris Diego art guy is. He's just so engaged. He's my #1 fan right out of the gate. Just kidding. He's my coworker. He's my beloved coworker. And also illustrator and animator and photographer and video editor. It's a multi-talented boy. I'm probably missing something too. I'm not paying attention to my laser gun at all. It's turning out trash. All right. Let's see. Some reason I'm thinking of like Rocky Horror Picture Show, like laser gun, but I'm also thinking of Star Trek. Just thinking of those types of ray guns. Let's see. This brush I'm using isn't great for this. So I'm gonna go to the brush that I've named Belgian Boy. I think it was called Belgian Comics in the brush file, and that wasn't good enough. Finger on the trigger. That's for those that are just joining, I'm drawing a laser gun, of course. Clearly. Oh, I just got the reference. Gray Whelan says, "When in doubt," and I will not finish that phrase. And that is a reference to our very first stream by Chris Diego, in which he shared with us some would say unfortunate phrase about how you should draw hands. It wasn't suggestive or anything, but it was just bad. Okay. He said, when in doubt, when in doubty, pinky outy or something. That it's just a cursed phrase that is now forever burned into my mind. For those that think I'm just drawing perfectly within the lines, I'm actually using the lock transparent pixels. So, which is this little button up here. So I kind of drew the silhouette of this gun, and now I'm just like coloring it, adding texture to it without having to like be precise. That's, yeah, That's a laser gun, if I've ever seen one. Thanks, Chris, for the recommendation. Yeah, it looks better when you zoom out, as most things do. Otherwise, it's a mess if you zoom in. I like the shield and pistol combo. It's classic. It's very like John Carter of Mars. That was like a 50s comic, I want to say. 60s maybe. Retro sci-fi. Okay. Where am I? What day is it? Okay, I'm just gonna do the lizard's head real quick and then thank you, Shroud, for the $50 donation and the sub. Just kidding. We're not doing that. Beautiful. I think that might be it. Got our characters all parsed apart. Have our foreground element. Got a bunch of clouds. I mean, I guess anything else that we want, you can always just, yeah, make a new file and bring it in. Let's see what else. Something I'm considering like creating this parallax effect that I'm gonna go for is like giving yourself some extra room. So for instance, like this big piece of grass, I don't necessarily think I'm gonna use like all of it, but just gave myself a little extra sort of room to work. Just because if it was like cropped like here, then I don't know. Same with this middle ground here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. It'll make more sense when we go into After Effects, but file, what am I doing? Image, edit, transform, that's what we're going for. So I'm gonna, I kind of drew like, even though I know that this area here, this little like sort of stone area is like where I want my characters to end up. Just sort of like adding a little more painting at the bottom of it. And if I really wanted to go, I think I'm going to go for this, like the camera is going to sort of pan up, sort of like out of the grass and like reveal this scene. So I think it was more important that I added extra room to the bottom of the illustration since I think it's going to be moving in that direction. Otherwise, if I really wanted to, I could sort of like flesh out the sides of this more and just sort of give yourself more breathing room. But same with these background elements back here, these like ruins, just kind of added some extra on the bottom. So if they're like moving upwards, I don't run out of room. Cool. I'm gonna bring this stuff over. And I think what you want to do is actually kind of forget, but I think you want to make sure everything is fully within frame in your Photoshop file. Otherwise, if I'm not mistaken, it will get cropped when you import it into After Effects. So there's my pile of animatable aspects, or assets rather. And yeah, it's a lot. Okay, file, save. Thank you for the succinct summary of my rant. Cool. I saved it. I'm gonna go ahead and close Photoshop. I'm gonna open After Effects since they are both fairly intensive on your computer. Okay. Sorry. All right, so yeah, I guess I'm not gonna list like every step I'm doing. I don't expect anyone to like absorb and retain all of this information, but for After Effects at least. But hopefully if you are curious about it, or want to just add motion to your illustrations or designs, you can, maybe this will make it like less daunting. I don't know. We'll see. That's the hope. Because if I can do it, you can do it. File, import file. I'm gonna hide my Finder window. You don't want to see how unorganized it is. Desktop. Okay. The one thing I will show is, so we found our file here. Just want to make sure it's, instead of import as footage, you just want to do composition retain layer sizes, so that will actually keep all of your layers separate, as opposed to like a flattened JPEG, which is essentially the footage option. So let's do that. There's all our layers. Oh boy. Did I say make this less daunting? No. Okay, so what happens if you try to like, so these are all listed out alphabetically. If you try to drag these in here, sorry, I'm getting lots of windows popping up on my other monitor. Here we go. So let's see. If you try to drag these in, they are not at all where you need them to be, since they're alphabetical instead of, you know, layered how you had it in your original file. So you just want to click on, it made a composition of your illustration file, so just double click that, and it's the same dimensions as what our Photoshop file was, which is some absurd, like I said, I think it was 18 by 24. So it's 2000 by 1400 pixels, which is not a standard size at all for video. But yeah, so maybe I'll make this 1400 by 1400 just to, yeah, I mean, that's again not a standard size, but if it's square, you can at least upload it to Instagram. And when you export it, you can shrink it down to something normal like 1080 by 1080. Okay. So it's gonna go piece by piece here. I'm just gonna kind of like turn off the visibility on all my stuff just because it's overwhelming, and just do kind of one thing at a time. So I got midground, background, and then the sky. Okay. So to make that parallax effect that I was talking about, to create the depth in this, I'm gonna need to use a camera in After Effects. And cameras only affect 3D layers, so you go ahead and like just turn on 3D layers there. The nice thing about doing it with the camera is you just get to put all of your pieces in place, and then you just have to animate the camera navigating the scene rather than trying to manually animate the foreground, background, everything. So yeah, you just have to like sort of put everything in its place, and then the camera just creates the cool effect. So let's see. So layer, new, camera. Sure. There's a lot of camera settings that I'm not privy to. And then the other thing you want to do is create a null layer, which is essentially a layer that has nothing in it. And this null kind of acts as your like dolly, essentially. Because if you try to just animate the camera, it does really weird things. So you need kind of like a normal layer to attach the camera to, and then that, I don't know, it makes more sense. So I'll just name this dolly. No, that's fine. I'll just name it camera null. I'll show you what I mean by the camera doing weird stuff once we get there. Yeah, I think I just I wanna sort out the sort of the scene first, and then we can deal with the characters in it since those are a little more complex. So let's turn on our foreground elements. Again, I guess what my vision is for this is sort of like if you were in a video game and you came across some sort of like battle encounter and it went to the battle mode and it's sort of like bug catcher wants to fight or whatever, and then it's gonna cut to this where it's like a little cinematic. But yeah, it's like the camera is going to kind of like raise from out of these blades of grass and reveal this battlefield. Yeah, that's the goal. I was thinking of ways where I could do like a series where people like vote on which person they want to win, and then like it's like a tournament bracket where like they kind of go on. It's obviously a lot of work, but it sounds fun. Someone did this like I forget where I saw it. It was on an Instagram channel. They did like a monster manual like tournament bracket from D&D. So they just read the stats out of the monster manual and then like pitted two monsters against each other and just like rolled off to see which one killed the other one, and did this whole like tournament series, and it's kind of fun. So this is sort of the same idea, but potentially. Okay, so I'm zooming out with the camera right now, and everything is in the same spot in Z space. So this, as I zoom the camera out, it looks like sort of one condensed layer. So I'm gonna try there. Oh, I do something, let me see. So it looks like my camera has some kind of like depth of fields, perhaps, where it's blurring things that are further away. That could make a cool effect, so I'll just roll with it for now. So let's see here. So I'm gonna leave the midground and all of the characters in their same spot, and then I'm just gonna sort of pull the foreground forward towards the camera and then push the background further out in Z space, and I think that'll save me work, and should create the effect that I'm going for. So, oops. Let's see here. Foreground. Okay. Okay, so yeah, these are the blades of grass, and I'm just dragging their Z position towards the camera. I think I'm gonna go, I've found success doing like increments of like 1,000 pixels or 500 pixels as far as like how you want to space the elements. See if I can go into, okay, so this is another view. I don't really work in this view, but it's a better demonstration of what's happening. So yeah, I'm bringing, this is the camera towards the bottom right corner. See if we can actually see it. Oh yeah, so it's this little pink square. So yeah, I'm just dragging those foreground elements forward towards it. And again, yeah, like there's this value down here that hopefully, oh, looks like my screen is blocking. Let me turn this off real quick so you can see. Yeah, so these just position values down here in the bottom left. I'm spacing things out at about 1,000 pixels apart, so let's do that. And then I'm going to push the background and the sky backwards about 1,000 pixels. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and so now when I go back to the active camera, it, you know, it shows me what this actually looks like. So you can sort of adjust from here. I'm just going to go ahead and animate the camera moving up in that movement I've been talking about. And that's going to help me figure out where stuff needs to end up. So our scene kind of where like the camera ends centered where we want it and all the elements are in place. So I'm just going to go ahead and start animating the position of the camera. So let's see here. Perhaps. Oh, ha. Okay, so I was on the wrong view. I was actually on front. I was like, this looks kind of perfect, like too perfect. I don't know how it lined up perfectly. This is actually what's happening in my camera, which is more typical, where everything's just like super out of whack. Okay, so now you can see where you're like, okay, I need to scale up the background. Actually, I mean, I kind of want those like structures, oops, to stay relatively small. So I'm gonna unparent those. I just want to fill out so there's no black showing. So midground, I'm just going to scale up the midground. Okay. Cool, so I think I'll just have to kind of trial and error. I want the camera to start fairly low, just because I want all this hard work to be like noticeable. Because if it's too subtle, it's like why even bother? Let's take a look. Gabby Longlegs says, I would definitely watch that. I'm assuming that's referring to the monster tournament bracket idea. Could be a thing. Could be real. So I think I actually want the camera to zoom in as well to get more centered on our battlefield here. So I'm going to tweak the position of these foreground elements just so, I mean, it's kind of cool that they're like blurred out, sort of depth of field thing going on, but it's a little distracting. So I'm going to move those down. I mean, yeah. I'm debating whether it looks cool or not. I think it's just weird, so I'm going to just get them out of the way. Not quite there. It looks a little jank. Maybe the zoom is too much. I think it zooms just in too far. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the middle ground and bring it down, and that's basically just kind of, it's going to kind of patch up this like blank space that is showing. So these need to, I think, scale up and come down a bit. Please get out of the way. Okay, it's getting there. So yeah, this is the parallax effect in essence. Is, yeah, this sort of like the foreground elements are moving faster than the middle ground, and the middle ground is moving faster than the background, and that's just sort of a, you know, that's just sort of how we experience, like, I guess, movement when looking out across like a long distance. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and just mess with the speed graph, just because the camera movement as it stands is just sort of like cheesy feeling. So if I remember, we're going for like video game battle cinematic. I think this, what I actually just did here, might work. It's sort of like accelerates and sort of eases into it. So we'll just be fine with that for now. I want to show off my structures more. Obviously the best part of the illustration. I didn't really leave much room for the clouds, but that's okay. They won't be forgotten. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's not what I was going for. There we are. I'm back. So I mean, this is pretty much all we have to do with the camera. We could, after we work on the characters, we could like add some kind of wobble to it maybe, but we'll see where we get. Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do the lizard guy first, since he's just way easier. I'll do the clouds real quick as well. So I'm going to go to this point in the timeline where our camera has stopped moving, because if you're trying to, like, I guess, work on animating things while there's camera movement, it gets really goofy. So I feel like the camera is going to stay put here, so I can go ahead and animate the clouds. Scale them down. And I'm actually just going to go lock the layers that I've... So just lock the middle ground, background, might as well lock the camera, just because, yeah, it's very easy to just accidentally like tweak those on accident. Okay. So all my clouds are starting off screen. So it's just 2 keyframes. One keyframe on the right side of the screen, the other keyframe on the left side going out of scene. And yeah, I'm just sort of like batch animating them. I don't really think there needs to be any kind of like easing. Oh, those are very fast clouds. Very scary. Let me move those. So stretch out the duration of that. Still fast. Let's go 10 seconds maybe. Okay. I mean, it is a battle, so it's supposed to be like exciting, so the clouds will move at that pace. And then you can, I guess, like, you know, I just sort of go through and like maybe give some subtle differences in timing. Some clouds moving slightly faster than others. And then I'm gonna go ahead and color code these. It's another thing that helps me, like if I have, you know, 50 layers, is like just go ahead and go through and sort of like color code the different elements that fit together. It just sort of helps it make it, you know, less daunting for yourself and easier to navigate and find stuff. So, and then I'm just going to kind of like stagger these so they come in at different times. I'm going to group them a little closer. It's not quite there, but we'll leave it for now. I think they could be back with even maybe going behind the structures there, because they seem too close right now. So let's just do that real quick. Trying to think of a good way to do this. So here's what I'll do. So I'm just going to make a new null layer and attach all the clouds to that. And then let's go ahead and I parented the 4 cloud layers to this new null object. So it's similar to creating like a folder in Illustrator or Photoshop where you can make edits to that folder and it affects the entire group. The advantage of that is, you know, it saves you time, but like now I could animate the position of the null and I wouldn't be affecting the position keyframes that I already set for the clouds. So yeah, it's sort of like nesting, I guess, like that concept. So I'm pushing those clouds back where, oh, you know what, they're behind. I put them back too much because they're behind our background now. No, I lost them. RIP. There they are. Okay. Trial and error. It's a part of the After Effects workflow. And just fumbling around. It says they're there, but I can't see them. Okay, we found them. All right, I'm just gonna push them back slightly, so. Okay. That probably looks exactly the same as I had it before, but I feel better about it. So now I'm going to go ahead and stagger. I'm trying to iron this out so that, because I had it where it was like, it zooms in, this cloud is like still, and then it starts going, so I'm just ironing those things out. Actually just gonna go through and push everything out of frame so that I don't really have those issues. Cool. That's passable, I think. Now that I have some clouds there, you could go ahead and like pre-compose this. Name it clouds. And let's see. Right now they're getting cropped. Okay. It's hard to see, but oh yeah, because I'm in the way. Let me turn my face off. It's this little tiny toggle icon that looks like a sun. If you click on that, I know with like, I don't even know, it's just like a magical button that just makes your life better. Like if you have vector layers and you bring them in and you don't toggle that, the vectors won't act like vectors. They will be like rasterized and they'll lose resolution. So I think the official name of it is retain attributes. But yeah, who knows? Like I said, making this program less daunting by just fully explaining all of these things. Let's see. Okay, so now that I've pre-composed it, the point of that was now you can copy that and you can have lots of clouds. So I'm just going to duplicate that a few times just so the clouds persist across the entirety of our animation, however long that is. Okay. Lizard man. So I'm gonna, this is again good that I've turned off my window, my webcam, because a lot of this is going to be taking place down in the bottom left corner. So right now I'm just going to go through and parent. Oops. You're essentially, yeah, it's called parenting. You are linking certain layers to other layers, so that those layers will like follow the position of given layers. So let me demonstrate. So like this guy actually doesn't need a ton of parenting now that I think about it. It's more so the gargoyle, but like, you know, you want the hand to stay connected to the wrist. So if you are rotating the forearm, you want the hand to follow the arm. So you're going to parent the hand to the forearm, stuff like that. This guy doesn't have a ton of movement going on. But the one thing we will want to do is make sure these layers are sort of rotating from their joints. So like this lizard's arm right now, we're going to want it to rotate from the shoulder. So I'm using the anchor point tool and dropping the anchor point there. So now when I go in and I'm rotating his arm, it's rotating from his shoulder, whereas in the default position it was like, I mean, that's a look, I guess, but it's not what we want. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put the anchor points where they should be. So, oh yes, this layer that's just named lizard. It's very helpful. Now, its head rotates from there. And then I think the only other thing we were planning on animating was tail. And I think shield here, which is just his whole arm. So just rotate from the shoulder once again. Now our lizard is ready to defend himself and block the oncoming attacks. Cool. So all of those are where they need to be. I'm just going to go ahead and parent all these layers for the purpose of scaling the lizard if I need to. So let's see. I'm just going to parent pretty much everything to the lizard layer, which is its torso. And so now if I change the scale of the torso, everything else scales proportionally with it and stays in place. So I feel like this would be like a Game Boy Advanced game or something. It's like those are the graphics that I'm drawing. That's the level that I'm at. Game Boy Advance. Maybe Nintendo Switch. Shots fired. All right. What else? Dare we? Dare we open the gargoyle? Unleash the gargoyle. Okay. Fine. Just gonna do this real quick. At least DS level. Yeah. I had a Nintendo DS. It was good. Played all of Final Fantasy 3 on it. It's like a weird like chibi art style. It was fun. Okay, what else? Okay, I think I want everything to be parented to the torso essentially, but yeah, this is kind of the order of operations. So the torso is going to be like the control. So if I scale that up and down, you know, the gargoyle is going to scale with it. And then it's kind of like a waterfall effect after that. So it's like for instance, the thigh is the closest to the torso. So I'm going to link the thigh to the torso, the lower leg to the thigh, and then the, let's see, the foot to the lower leg. So let's see. I'm sort of like losing where I'm at in the layers, so I'm going to go ahead and color code these. Both the wings are going to be connected to the torso. Let's see. Parenting the halberd to the corresponding upper arm. Okay. Can test out if that worked. Nope. Still have to put the anchor points where they need to live. Foot, you want to rotate it from the ankle. The head rotates from the neck, you know. Yeah, back to that paper doll kind of analogy. It's sort of like where you would stick the brads. That's one way to think of it. As you can see, we're still in the tedious territory. Maybe it's never fun. I don't know. I eventually, I think when it's done, I find it fun because it's rewarding. I'm like, cool, I made a thing. All right. So testing out our puppet. So like, okay, so his upper leg rotates and everything follows. Lower leg rotates and everything follows. The foot rotates. That's a cool pose. Kind of into it. Is animating ever not tedious? Yeah, that's a good point. At least we're not doing frame by frame. I mean, I guess it's just tedious in a different way. Okay. The gargoyle is ready. I need to put, okay. I need to put this one in like all caps so I can find it. It's done now. Okay, so everything is set up for real this time. So it's like you entered the battle, and then it's like fight. And then I feel like the gargoyle should like fly in from the side of the camera and land. Could always, what I think I was initially thinking was just like each of them are having like kind of their like idle animation where they're just sort of almost just like breathing and standing there, and there's just like subtle movements going on, and like maybe their arms are rotating and the gargoyle's wings are flapping a bit. Yeah, just so many things you could do. Okay. Let's just try to animate the gargoyle flying in. What could go wrong? Okay. So I'll show a little trick. I'm sure people that use After Effects are well aware of this. I guess, yeah. I'm gonna be working with mostly rotation keyframes. So since I know I want the gargoyle to essentially like land here and end up in this pose, you can go ahead and just, I like to kind of work backwards. So I want to set keyframes at this moment. Since again, like I know it's going to land here and be in this pose. So I'm going to go ahead and make a rotation keyframe there. And I'll also make a position keyframe on the torso layer, which everything is parented to. And then I'm going to go ahead and like scroll back in time, and let's make another position keyframe. Let's see the right scale. I'm going to scale it down a little. Yeah. No, that's fine. Okay. Perfect. Just doing some graph editor just to affect the velocity of these keyframes. That's a little dramatic. It's a little extra, if you ask me. I think it needs to take a little longer. Thank you. It is a nice jump. I'm gonna go ahead and animate the wings, since I think that's going to be probably the most dramatic movement. I said all that stuff about working backwards, and then I like messed up and I didn't really follow. So okay, so now that we have these keyframes here, because that's where we want it to roughly end up, let's see. Like I said, not the most functional wings when I drew them, but it's okay. Let's go ahead and do like his like weapon. I'm hitting, if you just like highlight keyframes and just go F9, it'll create a easy ease. So this is a weird looking speed graph because it's a negative value, but yeah, it essentially just makes an ease for you, which is, it looks a lot better than like a linear keyframe, which is just kind of the same velocity the whole time. This has at least a little, slows to a stop. Just gonna go ahead and ease all those keyframes. I don't know like exactly what I want this movement to be, but I'm just sort of rotating things into place and seeing what it ends up like. You can kind of tweak it from there if you want. Let's take a look. Looks like right now these layers need to come above his leg. Some of these movements are pretty subtle. It's like a 10-degree rotation, but it all just kind of adds to, I don't know. If someone's like seeing all the joints moving, it's just sort of like, you know, adds to the effect, I suppose. So let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and put the halberd towards the back, just so right now it's like between his legs. It's kind of dorky, if you ask me. Cool. I think I'm gonna take a cloud from my project and make like a little dust cloud when he lands. Oops. So this one, you'd want the anchor point towards the bottom of the cloud, since it's going to be growing like upwards. So see, like dust cloud there. So I'm just going to be animating opacity and scale. trying to add like a second cloud. Seems like it's, for some reason the scale isn't staying proportioned. It's fine. I'll just bring the opacity down. Cool. I feel like I always like to work super like scaled out. But it's probably not the best viewing experience for you guys, so let's try to zoom in a little more. Let's see. I think, yeah, zooming out, I think I get, since you're probably going to be viewing it, or at least most people are going to be viewing it like on mobile size, sometimes I find value just like zooming out and looking at it small to see if the movements are like dramatic enough or too dramatic. So there's our gargoyle jumping in there. I'm gonna animate the gargoyle's like resting position. So yeah, essentially like I'm thinking of in a video game like an idle animation where it's just like sort of this static movement where it's just like breathing and sort of like moving up and down, or its wings are shifting slightly. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try to do that real fast. Not that I have really a timeline for this stream, but I'm sure my moderators are going to want to not moderate at some point. I'm sure you're filtering out hundreds of messages, hundreds of hecklers. You're just working tirelessly, keeping the stream PG. I did kind of have like an open invitation to my friends on Instagram. I was like, just come and harass me. Okay. So I want to create a loop animation. I'm trying to think of a good way to do this. So he comes in, and then I basically want to cut right here, essentially, and then create an animation of the gargoyle that's just like looping in place. So I don't have to like animate like up, down, up, down, up, down to like get the effect that it's breathing. I can just like create a couple keyframes and then write in an expression to tell it to like just loop. So, but doing that mid animation without, I don't know. We'll see. We'll just see what happens. So I think what I'm actually going to do is take all these layers and go into a new composition. We will name this Gargoyle Loop. That's the street I live on. I'm gonna go ahead and delete all the keyframes so that this illustration is in the spot where the gargoyle ends up, where it lands. Where does Cav go? Okay. It was just like one frame off, so it was scaring me. All right. So now we're kind of in this like isolation mode with this guy. Let's see. Yeah, to actually get this effect, I might have to unlink certain elements. Just go for it. Because for instance, right now I want to create this kind of like breathing loop like I've been ranting about, but right now if I move up and down on the torso, since everything is linked to it, everything is following, so like this isn't gonna be a convincing animation. So I actually need to, in this composition, you know, like linking everything while it was jumping in made sense, since you don't have to independently animate, you know, the leg following the torso perfectly. But for this, I'm gonna kind of unlink things so we have a little more freedom. So I think I'm pretty much unlinking all of the lower body. I think it makes sense for the arms to stay linked, because if the torso is like breathing, the arms are going to be following that. But the legs are planted in the ground, so the legs are gonna be more like absorbing the breathing and like bending at the knees slightly, but they don't necessarily want to follow the breathing. What else? All right, I'm gonna start with, torso. Let's see. So what's nice about this setup that I'm going to be doing is essentially this whole breathing animation is just going to take like 2 keyframes on all the elements, and then you can just like write in an expression to have it loop. So I don't know. Normally, like, I think I used to just copy and paste keyframes throughout the entire animation to be like up, down, up, down, up, down. And it's just like, just a pain. So one thing I'm a little concerned about is the fact that this comp is cropping it right now. So I'm going to move it centrally and then line it up when we go back to our other composition. Otherwise, with the 3D camera and stuff, like there could be a situation where the wing is clipped off or like cropped, like how we have it in this composition. So just keep everything, kind of give everything room once again. Okay, so I'll show this loop expression. So now that, oops, oh, no, okay, let me redo this. So position keyframe. Okay. I'm going to do F9 for the ease, and then go ahead and you go, if you're on a Mac, you go Option, you click the stopwatch, brings up this expression field. If you're on Windows, I think it's Alt, and then click this little arrow icon. It says expression, I forget what it says, expression language menu. Property, loop out, and then where it says cycle right here, what cycle will do is it will cycle. So it'll, once your keyframe, your last keyframe, it will just jump back to your first keyframe in this layer. What for this, I actually want ping pong. You just type in the word ping pong, one word, and now it sort of like flips, it mirrors the keyframes. So it's like kind of easing back and forth between these 2 keyframes rather. So this is kind of the base of the breathing animation that we're going to work off of. So we're just kind of animate everything to follow the torso at this point. I think I do want this. Oh. Okay. There we go. This is an interesting position for him to be in. Okay. Just trying to think of how the legs would bend. I guess it's subtle enough where it's not the end of the world. This is kind of weird because I actually want the keyframe, or sorry, the anchor point on its knee so that it, oops. Just clicking the wrong layers here. Okay. Want the anchor point on his knee, so let's take a look. So I'll go keyframe, and then I kind of want to, yeah, I'm gonna have it follow like that. So it's actually rotating from the knee this time instead of like the hip. And then can loop that. I mean, you could almost get away with that, like, because I don't know how much movement the like lower leg would be doing. Yeah. I'm just gonna save myself some work. Okay, I'm gonna move the back legs a little bit. Unfortunately, I think the more work you do, the better it looks. I guess most things work that way, but not always. There's such a thing as overworked. I'm doing all these keyframes, one at 0 seconds, the other at 1 second. So all the keyframes on each body part match up. So even if they're like off by a few frames, the longer the loop goes on, the more out of sync your pieces will become, since like one cycle is finishing a few frames faster than any other one. So something to keep in mind. It's very, very dramatic breathing, but you know, it's like a boxer or something. It's like ready to attack any moment. Let's see. Thank you, Dr. Disrespect, for the sub and the donation of $3,000. Just naming, we'll get there eventually. That didn't happen, but all the famous streamers will be following this channel, and they'll just be throwing money. It's an interesting cycle, I guess. I kind of want the head to not be in sync, have it be kind of like a secondary movement where it's sort of like whiplashes like after the body is doing its movement. So I might actually, yeah. This one is going to be weird because it will get out of sync. Something to think about. This guy's having a good time. Yeah, I don't know. We'll just let it ride. Can I explain this part? Yes. So let me take a sip of water. So what I'm doing right now is, let me go back. So this is our comp. So I animated this jump scene, and now I want a animation of the gargoyle just sort of breathing, I suppose, and like doing, I guess, like static movement where it's just sort of moving around. And I don't want to I want to be able to animate that where all of those elements are just looping infinitely, so I don't have to, make all of these keyframes. So I created a new composition. I brought this illustration into this composition, and now what I'm doing is sort of creating that loop. So the gargoyle was this composition starts off with the gargoyle in the spot where it landed back here. So same pose. And now what I'm doing is these little they're kind of loop expressions. So I'm only having to put 2 keyframes on each element to kind of get this effect. So for instance, this torso is a is 2 position keyframes. It's down and then up. And then I typed in that expression, so now it's just looping up, down, up, down, up, down for, as long as I want within this composition. So I'm saving myself work by creating this like loop, which I can then sort of manipulate. Hopefully that helps. I'm gonna still be kind of going through and looping some of these elements so you can watch what I'm doing. So for right now, I'm going to, let's have like the wing. Cool. Yeah, so gray, if you watch, like, I'm going to loop this wing essentially. So I'm going to go into rotation, drop a keyframe, scroll over to the 1 second mark, since that's kind of where I want all the keyframes to line up. And then I'm going to, like, let's say, I don't know. I guess that's cool. It's kind of a counter movement to him, like, bouncing up and down. So I'm gonna go F9 to just add an ease to these so that the speed graph looks like that. And so now, since I haven't added that expression yet, the wing stops animating after this point. So you just go ahead, hold down Option, click on the stopwatch to open the expression field. Same place that you would type in like a wiggle expression, for instance. And then there's this little like arrow here, which opens up kind of the menu of different expressions. And you go to Property, and then there's a few different loop ones, but loop out, and not loop out duration, because that one has to do with time. This one is just like indefinitely. So loop out, cycle. A cycle will, once it hits your second keyframe, it will jump back to your first keyframe. Whereas I want to do, you just type in the word ping pong in the place of the word cycle. And now that essentially bounces back and forth between the two. So it creates this movement. Let's see. Just gonna kind of try to get through this so that, because I'm sure as riveting as this is. Oops, I keep trying to type in property. It doesn't work. This one I wouldn't mind offsetting. Yeah. Expression error. I typed in ping pong, not ping pong. Okay. And once again, I kind of want the halberd movement to be a little more delayed. It's weird because it's going to get like, again, kind of out of sync where it's going to be, I don't know. I think sometimes just that like randomness sort of adds to it. If it's doing the exact same motion every second, yeah, this will be slightly more dynamic. I have a terrible chair. This is something I'm realizing. It's like this office chair that I've had for like 5 years, and no, probably longer, probably like 8 years, and it has like zero support. It's like I might as well be sitting on like, I don't know, just doing squats at this point. Okay. That's pretty much it, I think. I just want to try something that will probably break my computer. Which is, I'm going to try to do like a kind of a warp effect on this wing. So I'm going to go to Effect, Distort. I guess I could do, there's probably a few effects that would work. I'm going to do the Puppet Pin tool, I think, which just has its own dedicated tool up here. So Puppet Pin tool, you just sort of like add little pins, and then from there you can manipulate those points, and it essentially like creates this sort of mesh on the object, and it will distort the mesh according to where the points are. I'll just show it. So there's like 500 little drop down menus, and it's under Puppet, Mesh, Deform, and then you have a drop down for each of the pins. It's like slightly unnecessary, but all right. So it already created a keyframe at 0 seconds when I first inserted the pins. So now I'm gonna just try. Not quite. Maybe if it's just subtle. What does extreme look like? Okay, that looks pretty bad. But you can see where it's like an interesting tool to keep in mind, because you can just, yeah, I mean, manipulate it pretty wildly from its original form. That looks good, actually. I'm just gonna keep that. And then I have to loop out both of these. My computer is like the fan just kicked into like high gear. Puppet pen tool is pretty processing heavy, and I'm not even really, it's not like a complicated mesh or anything. Yeah, that's a gargoyle, folks. So, all right, so it lands, and now we're gonna bring in gargoyle loop. Turn on 3D layers on it. And I'm just going to kind of line it up. So after it lands, I mean, I guess once it stops moving, so like there, I'm just going to take this guy. I turned the quality down on my pre-render, or what is it called, like RAM preview. So if it looks pixelated, it's supposed to. Oh, I'm not paying attention to the chat. Gray Whelan asks, what are the yellow pins called? It's the puppet pin tool, and it's this, it has its own like dedicated spot in the toolbar up top here. It looks like a little thumbtack. Sweet, so it's lined up there, so I'm gonna go ahead and like stop. I'm gonna make a cut, so like this sort of jumping gargoyle, I'm gonna split those layers and delete them so that, because we don't need two gargoyles going on. So basically once this one lands, it almost seamlessly transitions into the kind of loop that we just worked on. Can I bring this thing home before 6? When my coworkers sign off? That's the question. Probably not. But yeah, there's like a little stutter. I'll zoom in. But I don't think it's, yeah, there's like a slight hiccup that if you cared more, you could iron out. I think it has to do with the timing. Here, let me try to fix it. I think, oh, too far. I think it has to do with the timing of this. So I'm gonna scroll this back to 0 seconds and move it here. that looks worse. Okay. Close enough. I think the head is the only thing that is really noticeable, but it's okay. It's a Game Boy Advance game that we're developing. It's full of bugs. Yeah, now I just need a programmer. I'm sure that's like always the case. Someone's like, I got a great idea for a game. If only I had a programmer. And then art people are like, I can draw good. Someone do all the hard work. Okay, I mean, I think the lizard guy we can do. I'm gonna try to do this lizard guy in like 5 minutes. This will be the speed round. Since it's only 5 layers versus like 15 the gargoyle, so yeah. Choose your complexity, I guess. Let's see. This guy, I'm not going to break off into a separate composition since it's not like flying in. Oh yeah, this is supposed to be the speed round, so I'm just gonna do it. I'm sure my head is in the way of all the work I'm doing, so I'm just gonna cut the camera real quick. Actually, just gonna copy and paste this line of JavaScript. Now we're thinking. If you're doing like 20 ping pong cycles, you should just copy and paste that into that expression field. There it is. He looks ready for battle, so boom. I'm gonna offset a couple of these. Just so they're not all moving like identically at the same time. The lizard guy, obviously the protagonist, because it's on the left side of the screen. That's the only reason. Uh-oh, my mods let a bot get through. Fired. Okay. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna do one last thing. Gotta add some fake UI. Health bar. So you can go dig through the contents of a shape layer and eventually find the fill, which just because I think I want it to transition from red to green. Sure. Go ahead and make this a little more dramatic. Copy it and layer, transform, flip horizontal. Not sure what's going on there. Get those bots out of here. Want to get famous? Oh my God. Okay. Layer new text. All right, let's watch the whole thing. See if I can go. I think there's a way to go full screen. Probably gonna hit the wrong button. I remember how to do it in Premiere, but it's okay. I'll just... All right, that's as good as we get. Oh, it's... I think there it is. Okay. We're ready for our video game pitch. Cool. Thanks for everybody who popped in, and thanks to anyone who stuck through the whole thing. Yeah, we'll probably do some more stuff like this and just hang out and keep making stuff. So yes, signing off for now. Everyone have a great rest of your evening, and we might be able to get this, maybe a condensed version of this work session posted on YouTube. So yeah, thanks everyone.